Live. Everywhere. On netrootsradio.com. David Waldman. Kagro. In the morning. Now, here's David Waldman.
Hey, good morning, everybody. How you doing? It's Thursday, March 19th, 2026. Time moves on, marches forward. We march, well, I guess we're not marching, flying continuously into war, ever escalating, and taking all sorts of fun twists and turns, of course, because, one, war, and two, Donald Trump in charge of war. So that's not going to go very well. Greg has lots of details on that, and I don't think any of them will surprise you. They will just shock you. You knew they were coming, but they're shocking nonetheless. Plenty elsewhere, of course. All across the board, really. There are developments in the courts. There are developments in Congress. There are developments, the courts taking Congress to court and developing things there. All sorts of activity everywhere, and of course an upping of the price tag for the war. I think just last week, while President Trump was allegedly, well, he was actually telling people, but he was telling people that he was alleging that he was not going to sign any legislation until the Save America, which totally sucks, Save America Act, was signed, sealed, and delivered. And of course, the picture emerging from that thing, worse every day, but I guess Senate consideration is underway. And again, we still just don't know what he even means or whether he, meant it at all to say, well, I won't sign any other legislation until this one is passed. And at the same time, though, he was already saying we need another $50 billion for the war, which we already won. We won last year. We won last week. We didn't even really need to do it. No, we don't even have any interest there. The rest of the world should really be conducting this war, but we'll do it instead, even though none of the rest of the world actually wanted it conducted. Anyway, I don't know how he thought he was going to get $50 billion into his hands, presumably, if he wasn't going to sign any legislation, unless he got this voter suppression bill through. But the proper response was, well, don't believe him about that. Anyway, just to show how serious he is, he's paid no attention to that statement whatsoever and continues to demand more money for the war, except the price tag quadrupled since last week with no mention of why or how. I mean, war tends to do these sorts of things, or really anytime Republicans are appropriating money for something that they like, well, it's going to cost $50 billion. So by the time the bill is written, it costs $200 billion, at which point they say, Democrats are tax and spend liberals. You know the drill. The request is now for $200 billion. By the way, the ballroom goes on. Ballroom project goes on uninterrupted, I'm sure. No money there. Or the tariff shelf, which totally isn't empty, or all the money is sitting there, but it needs to be rebated. And that can't be used for anything, I'm sure, but is also gone as well. Look, it's an across-the-board disaster. It's another day in Trump land. There's really no other way of putting it. Greg Dworkin, I guess you could try and find another way of putting it. I'm not certain whether any of it will work, but let's see. We'll poke around and see if there isn't anything we can find. Where's one of our other favorites? We haven't used this one in a while yet. Good old Fractured Fairy Tales. It's sort of the story of the war, I suppose. Takes a while, though. Takes its sweet time to get around to the good stuff. Oh, there's the war. Good morning, Greg. How are you?
I'm trying to imagine Trump on point in his swollen boots, trying to pretend to be a ballerina. And it's not working. It's making my eyes bleed. Right.
Yeah, well, you can't get the right size ballet shoes on that guy anyway, so it wouldn't make a difference. Shoes. All right. What can I tell you? You have a whole organized thought pattern about this.
Yeah,
Let's see if we can blow it up and ruin it with weird news about other stuff.
Get that ready.
Oh, okay. That's always at hand.
So,
all right.
Idris Ali, who is an energy correspondent for Reuters National Security, covering the Pentagon.
All right.
Says benchmark Brent oil prices jumped above $119 a barrel.
I got to go get a barrel.
That's a lot.
Yeah, right. Everybody was always freaked out about it. Well, it could reach $100. Okay, how about 20% higher than that?
Yeah, this is after Iran attacked energy facilities across the Middle East following Israel's strike on the South Pars gas field, major escalation in the war.
South Pars?
I sent David a map of the South Pars gas field. This is a giant, world's largest gas field right in the middle of the Persian Gulf.
The likes of which the world has never seen.
Only I know about it. Half of it is on Iran's side.
Yeah.
And the other half is on Qatar's side.
Yeah,
they call
cooperate.
it the North Field.
Okay.
And they both draw from it, exactly at the border between the two countries, as drawn on a map. So what happens is...
floating in the ocean.
Qatar doesn't take a molecule of that which belongs to Iran and vice versa when they're right at the line. You know how those things work.
Always, science. It's great. They're actually pretty cooperative.
So stuff happens.
Worth a lot of money. Yeah, all right.
Right?
Right.
So
I don't know.
Israel
You say so.
bombed the facilities that Iran uses to draw out gas from that field.
Trump bombed the facilities this morning.
So in retaliation...
I'm just saying. Yes.
Right? Iran started hitting a lot of energy targets for them in various and sundry countries. And that includes, worrying about the Qatar side of the field. But they also hit several different countries. And one of the places they hit, you remember yesterday we talked about the fact that the Saudis had built an underground oil pipeline.
Oh, yes. I do remember that. Holy cow.
The Persian Gulf, the frying pan Gulf,
right?
over completely cross-cutting the Saudi peninsula, which, by the way, looks like Trump's swollen foot, over to the other side, to the Fire Gulf, which is the Red Sea. And they have a port, Yan been there, where they unload things.
I've not been
and
there, no.
Iraq, in retaliation, wound up hitting that port. So now we have Saudi output temporarily blocked. I think they're open again.
No more Saudi output.
The threat is there, and so Iran claiming that they have the capacity to strike despite having 90% of their military degraded, and we won the war 4 times, and why don't they just admit it? That crap. Turns out Iran has not been defanged, and they can do these things. And the number of drones that Iran is launching is greater now than since the first couple of days of the war. So no, we haven't degraded everything yet. Now,
darn it.
Trump realizes that this has an enormous shockwave effect, which we'll go into in detail in a little bit, but this is the important part of it. He realizes this and says, those initial reports that Israel hit the South Pars Iranian side of the gas field with U.S. permission, that didn't really happen. Yes, it got hit, but no, they didn't really have my permission because, I didn't even know about it.
Well, I mean, it's hard to know what he knows or what he doesn't. But
this is amazingly important.
Okay.
First of all, let me give you some background here from the former ambassador to actually, we should start with Trump and what Trump actually said. This is a statement from Trump on South Pars gas field. Israel, out of anger for what has taken place in the Middle East, has violently lashed out at a major facility known as South Pars gas field in Iran. A relatively small section of the whole has been hit. The U.S. knew nothing about this particular attack, and the country of Qatar was in no way, shape, or form involved with it, nor did it have any idea it was going to happen. Unfortunately, Iran didn't know this or any of the pertinent facts, and unjustifiably attacked a portion of Qatar's LNG gas facility. No more attacks will be made by Israel pertaining to this extremely important and valuable South Pars field unless Iran unwisely decides to attack a very innocent Qatar. In which instance, the United States of America, with or without the help or consent of Israel, will massively blow up the entire gas field. at an amount of strength and power that Iran has never seen or witnessed before. I do not want to authorize this level of violence and destruction. I will not hesitate to do so. Thank you for your attention to this matter, President Donald Trump.
All right.
Okay.
Go to bed. So
Dan Shapiro, who was the U.S. ambassador, I forget the years, like 2011 to 17, something like that. He was a longtime U.S. ambassador to Israel under Obama. Writes, and very respected in the field. Trump can post whatever he likes, but there is zero, he writes, zero chance the IDF would conduct a strike in that location without giving CENTCOM full visibility. Trump knew and approved. Now he realizes it caused a major escalation with Iran's entirely unjustified attacks on Gulf energy targets.
Okay.
Now, people like Mike Cernovich and a whole bunch of other right-wing nutjobs who follow him said, I don't believe you. You're calling my president a liar.
Happy Thursday.
And Shapiro wrote back, this is all on Twitter, what explanation do you have for this?
Yeah, I mean...
And then he posted something a lot longer in terms of analysis. And he writes, for my new followers, this is Shapiro, who may not have read all I've been writing, let's establish a motor about my views. Number one, Iran, under the current regime, is a violent, aggressive actor that threatens many neighbors, sponsors terror, calls for Israel's destruction, has much American and other people's blood on its hands, and oppresses the Iranian people. Sooner it's gone, the better. And I've called for major support for the Iranian people in their struggle for freedom. I favor pressuring the Iranian regime in many ways. He's not a squish, in other words. And I'm not opposed to using force against the Iranian regime. I supported Operation Midnight Hammer last summer and can imagine other operations I would support. I am opposed to regime change wars in the Middle East. I've said from the beginning I don't support Trump launching this war this way. Israel has its own interests, as does any nation. When our interests align, as they often do, we should work together. When they don't, we should pursue our own path. We are security partners, which serves our interests, but we can also disagree. Israel's security is an important U.S. interest, but we have leverage in this relationship, and it's legitimate for us to use it. Trump launched this war without clear strategic objectives, adequate assessment of, and preparation for the risks, and without any attempt to inform the American people of what we're doing and why, or seek the support of Congress or key allies. It's his decision, and he bears responsibility for it, no one else. The military has performed brilliantly at both military, strategic, and operational levels. Will always have my support. Commanders have been straight with the American people. But the strategic objective they need from our political leaders remains muddled. So the early successes in taking out Iranian leaders and degrading many Iranian power projection capabilities provided a window for Trump to claim victory and take an off-ramp. Basically, he didn't take it. And it was predictable that strikes on Iranian energy facilities would lead to Iranian strikes on Gulf energy facilities. Even if the intent was to message Iran that their energy industry could be at risk if they don't open the strait, this is a costly and needless escalation. And I would point out what's happening here. Why did this happen? Why would he hit the energy facilities? The answer is very simple. Don't overthink it. Trump is a mob boss, and he basically said to Iran, nice oil business you got here. It'd be a shame if something happened to it.
Yeah.
And that is the only thing he thought about. He did not think this through one iota further 5 minutes after he hit. My view. So back to the ambassador, but it is totally unjustified for Iran to strike Gulf nations. The guy is not a pacifist. He's not a weenie about
this explanation is for you and me. Cernovich didn't hear a word of it.
Yeah.
But okay.
So there's a narrow window following the Israeli and Iranian strikes and Trump's Truth Social post, untrue but possibly useful, to de-escalate away from further strikes on energy industry targets in either direction. That will still leave a challenging situation, but we'd be better than what we have now. And if you read this far, have a good night. So, that's what's going on here. And Trump, you might have thought that, hey, Trump is sending Marine Expeditionary Force over to the Gulf, and maybe he'll escalate by trying to take Karg Island or put boots on the ground on the Iranian side of the strait and, try to secure it. A whole bunch of things might happen once they arrive. He's already escalated.
Yeah.
And he realizes it's a big, huge mistake because the markets are telling him that. Dow Jones futures are already down 300 today.
Yay.
Oil prices are up. The ripple effect is major. He's being shown to be a liar. He's splitting MAGA on this. And don't believe Harry Anthony when he says MAGA's 100% behind. They are absolutely not. Mm. And that's
Certainly
why Nazi Joe Kent is on Tucker Carlson and Candace Owen and making the rounds about this is a bad war. I told you it's a bad war. The problem is, it isn't just that Trump is turning out to be a liar. For those people who are in the cult who have to believe everything that the leader says, Trump is setting Israel up to get thrown under the bus as this whole escalation is their fault. And
Wonderful.
There is nothing good about this. This is all really bad.
Well, I can't find anything
that's why
good.
that little
Right.
post about having Cernovich and the ambassador Shapiro argue about this is so important. It's the context of what's going on here.
Yeah. Well, there's certainly an evident split for MAGA, and I mean, I guess so far it's been along the lines of, well, how is this America first? What does this do for America? And we can't quite see it. Although, honestly, that never bothered them before. We have footage of things blowing up. That's what it's doing for America.
But that's okay. They can have that argument. It wouldn't bother us one bit. If they're going to change the argument to, listen, Trump never lies, and if he says Israel's responsible for this whole mess, then Israel's responsible for this whole mess. And you know what that means. That's bad.
Yeah. Well, I guess I would say maybe there are probably politicians in charge of Israel who, if someone had told them, it really never pays in the long run to partner with Trump about anything, and almost everybody who does ends up under the bus. Everything Trump touches dies. If we had maybe put that out somewhere or printed it to somewhere or put it on social media where they could have seen it. I mean, what the problem is, I've done that in English and I don't know how to say it in Hebrew. Maybe that was it. It never got through. But, I don't know what else I can tell you about lying down with dogs that hasn't been said already. But there you go. It will be visited unfairly on others elsewhere and around the world.
So this is from the English version of Haaretz, which is a daily Israeli paper that tends to lean left. Times of Israel tends to be right in the center, and Jerusalem Post tends to be right-leaning. This is, and they all publish in English. Israel and U.S. raise stakes in Iran as Mideast heads into all-out energy war. While Trump acts as if he has all the time in the world, it's important to end the war before Israelis and the Gulf states run out of patience and interceptors, which is another problem. And so the military analysts look back and say, brilliant campaign, but now it's a question of what runs out first, Iranian drones or American interceptors, because there's a limited supply and we can't make them as fast as we're using them. So what happens now? But beyond that, I think that the gist of the article really makes the point that Israeli and U.S. interests aren't always completely aligned, and the side effects of miscalculation, be it on the Israeli side or the American side, are starting to get fairly profound. Now, if Israel hit the gas field in Iran, which they did,
okay,
and the U.S. had knowledge of it, which they did despite what Trump says, did Israel want to do it and Trump went along? Or did Trump want to do it and coerced Israel into doing it? It's kind of important to know which is which. But it's not clear that we do know.
I guess. I mean, I suppose it could be either. I just have a hard time imagining Trump having a strategic plan. Although,
if Israel wanted this and coerced Trump into doing it, it's kind of a political disaster for U.S.-Israeli relations.
Yeah. Well,
that's why it's important. If Trump forced Israel to do it because he wanted Israel to look like the bad guy, then you can blame it all on Trump, and that, it's a little bit slightly better.
I mean, I guess
the history of U.S.-Israeli relations.
I guess so.
I care about those things.
Yeah, I just haven't seen much evidence in the way of Trump persuading other people to do things, for one thing, other than people who are under his thumb, Republicans.
Well, but he could say to Netanyahu, "You owe me, and you need my support right now."
Maybe I don't know. Yeah, I suppose anything's possible. But they just have seemed so petulantly independent in their decision making about things like that. But maybe that's changed with open warfare now on the table. I don't know. We'll find out, I guess. The idea that that the United States would have had no idea about it. Like, if you really had no idea about it, that would have been super dangerous. Had we had no idea what was going on and not shot down whatever it was coming from Israel that carried out that attack, we would say, oh, the American fleet in the Persian Gulf is a sitting duck. They have no idea what's flying around blowing things up in the neighborhood, and offered no defenses. However, they offered no defenses because they knew that it was quote-unquote friendlies coming in and carrying out this attack. Well, then that just gives lie to we didn't know about it. So we are either incompetent or lying about it now. Well, and I'm sure it's lying about it.
But wait. Some things get worse here.
Oh, all right.
Here's a report, which was forwarded by David Frum. Denmark prepared for a possible U.S. attack. They flew blood supplies to Greenland and planned to blow up runways. Key sources in Denmark and Europe are now revealing for the first time what happened during the most critical days when Trump threatened to take Greenland the hard way. When Danish soldiers were rapidly deployed to Greenland in January, they brought explosives. The plan was to destroy runways in Nuuk and Kangerlussuaq to prevent American military aircraft from landing troops on the island should the U.S. president decide to seize Greenland by force. At the same time, Denmark reached out to its European allies, leading to closer cooperation. So a rapid response force consisting of Danish, French, German, Norwegian, and Swedish soldiers was first deployed to Nuuk and Kangerlussuaq. Shortly after, a main force followed, including soldiers from the Danish Dragoon Regiment, elite troops from the Jaeger Corps. There's always a Jaeger Corps in every video.
Yeah, they're always elite, you know?
Yeah. French Alpine troops trained for cold and mountainous warfare, and at the same time, Danish fighter jets and French naval vessel were sent to the North Atlantic. This seems like a big deal.
Sacre bleu.
Yeah. So Frum retweets this and says, if you wonder why Europeans flinch from helping the U.S. in the Gulf, in January, NATO allies were seriously preparing for a U.S. sneak attack on Greenland.
Yeah, maybe that's it.
That's pretty amazing.
This is the whole. Now, Trump is a genius. He's planning to demand that they go to the Persian Gulf and participate in that war so then he can turn around and sneak and hit them in Greenland once they've left. But they're not going for it.
Okay. At the same time, you covered this on the show yesterday. Shoshank Joshi
all
writes,
right.
Several governments, including India, Pakistan, Iraq, Malaysia, and China, are in direct talks with Tehran, coordinating vessel transits via an emerging IRGC, that's the Revolutionary Guard.
Oh, yeah.
Run registration and vetting system. At least 9 ships have already used the corridor.
There you go. Corridor. All right.
So what do? What does the U.S. Navy do? Do they turn pirate? Do they start taking out these ships with a Jolly Roger flag?
Yes.
I mean, what is the freaking plan?
I think I'm going to make a prediction that will happen in September. September 19th, I think.
Yeah. We'll talk about it anyway.
Yeah, right. I don't know. We got to, and we'll find out who the world thinks the pirates are. If we start doing that, it's going to be amazing if everybody else starts navigating the strait, and in order to continue to perpetuate the claim that Iran is closing it, we're going to have to sink all the ships that are going through with Iran's permission and say, see, the Iranians are closing the Strait of Hormuz. All of these, torpedoes say made in USA on them. Well, they could have stolen them and used them on, like they did on the School with the Tomahawk. Sure.
Meanwhile, the Iranians continue to fire on the Saudis, among others. And I mentioned Yanbu, the oil facility that's on the Red Sea.
Okay.
And also a projectile exploded near Saudi's Aramco's Riyadh facility.
All right.
Saudis say they intercepted 4 missiles. Some of these get through. That's the thing. You have to intercept every single one. So if you get 9 out of 10, that means a missile landed, and that's bad.
oil
plant,
anything,
whatever,
really.
So the foreign minister had a big speech about Iran. They're useless. They never did anything for Islam. All they do is terror. and they reserve the right to military action against Iran.
Oh.
That's not what they want. They don't want a widening war. Iran wants to punish the Gulf states and bring everybody in because they can't really punish the U.S. enough, and they keep losing Israel when they have direct conflict. So they're trying to do it in indirect ways. And stopping them is, shall we say, not easy.
Yeah.
And this is why there's always a role for diplomacy. All wars end with negotiations. They never end
some
with,
kind,
we've wiped everybody out. That's only in, like, fantasy world. So the idea that this is going to be a quick march on Kyiv and we'll just take Ukraine in 3 days, that's what Trump thought. Not true. Widening war, big mess. Oil prices are changed forever. I mean, the whole structure.
Yeah, nothing's going to go down.
How we price oil has changed because of this threat. And again, as we talked about either Monday or Wednesday, can't even remember, there's more that goes through the strait than just oil and gas. It's also fertilizer, food, helium, and other things that are vital for modern economies like ours.
Why don't they just float over all the missiles?
So what the hell did he do?
I don't know, and he doesn't know, and he didn't know he was doing it, and he didn't know he wasn't aware of what he was doing. We're lying about who told who about what. Yeah, this is remarkable.
Even my triumphalist conservative friends are really unhappy this morning. They don't think things are going well.
He's not going to be able to build that 250-foot victory arch if he's not careful. My goodness.
He might not get the Peace Prize.
Yeah. Oh, right. I had almost forgotten about that. I figured it was a lock and put it out of my mind.
He might have to give it back.
Hi, Kagro in the Morning listeners. This is Rebecca Romans, longtime listener and longtime supporter of the show. Do you love your non-corporatized, completely independent, commercial-free Kagro in the Morning show? Do you stand out among the crowd at the office water cooler when discussing current events because of all the up-to-the-minute news you've been brought by David Waldman? Then it's time to give back a little. David relies on contributions from listeners like you and me to keep this show on the air. Patreon.com is among the easiest ways to make secure recurring monthly donations to support the show. Patreon.com/KagroX will bring you straight to his donation page, where you can sign up for any convenient tier you like. A mere $5 a month. You'll never miss it. Works out to about 25 cents a show. That means that David is making 12.5 cents an hour, which, by coincidence, is exactly what the GOP wants to lower the federal minimum wage to. Once again, David is ahead of the curve. If Patreon.com doesn't sound like your kind of thing, there's always PayPal, or even the Square Cash app. Any way you choose to donate, please choose to donate. And thank you on behalf of David and the rest of us listeners. Thank you very much.
All right, welcome back, everyone, to the Kagro in the Morning Show here on Network Radio. Or maybe not welcome back. We don't know. Maybe everybody left because of the break. That's a possibility.
Yeah, well, we'll
win you back.
Mash that like button and don't forget to subscribe.
Right. I'm not certain what that does, but...
I don't either, but, it's like the off switch on a spaceship. It's just there so you feel good.
I guess so. Maybe. So other people claim to be making millions
it's not going well. Why don't we just turn the whole thing off here?
Right. I guess.
That'll get us back to Earth, and the holodeck will open up again. So Ron Brownstein was looking at all of this, including the Pentagon $200 billion request that's putting Congress in a bind. We'll get to that. Ron Brownstein writes, not just direct cost to consumers' wallets at the pump, but the priorities cost of the war over health care, education, pretty much everything and anything else, they're coalescing as a 2026 issue. Seems to me that the House is a foregone conclusion that the Democrats are taking it. But the Senate is on a trajectory to go blue, and I have a piece on that and what it would take. And at the same time, Republicans are becoming aware of this, and they're getting very nervous.
Yeah. Good.
I don't
know what else to say about that.
Democrats are going, shh. We're hunting wabbits.
Yeah. Okay.
Republican wabbits. So a couple of pieces along those lines in terms of politics. Let's do Punch Bowl. Let's start there. I mean, you can start anywhere, but Punch Bowl is talking about the fact that the Congress, the Republicans, particularly in the Senate, have been assiduously trying to avoid getting involved whatsoever with governance, especially when it comes to war.
It's their job, but other than that, what's the issue?
The use of ground combat forces inside Iran in order to reopen the strait would be a red line for many lawmakers in both parties. Trump may be forced by necessity to come to Congress to authorize an expedition. GOP lawmakers privately tell us this would be an uphill fight, although they want to see if Trump actually makes the request first, of course. Rubio says, no, we're not planning boots on the ground. Murkowski says, if that changed, whether it's the Marine Expeditionary Unit or these others that may be coming their way, if they know it, we got a pretty decent-sized skiff here. They need to be talking to us about it. So the internal debate over ground troops comes as the Post reports that the Pentagon has asked for $200 billion plus, a figure that would stun everyone on Capitol Hill and may not be politically feasible. We reported Monday that the White House could ask for $100 billion, but it's fair to say the price tag is rising rapidly for what once was expected to be a limited operation. There is virtually no chance Democrats would back any of this. Republican, even Fetterman, I'm not sure would back this. Republican leaders, oh, by the way, before I forget, Fetterman may turn out to be the deciding committee vote as to whether Markwayne Mullin gets out of committee. Because Rand Paul is already a no. I don't know if you heard about any of that stuff.
Yes, I did. We haven't talked about it, but
Rand Paul confronted Markwayne Mullin yesterday in a really dramatic hearing.
Yeah.
Well worth watching if you haven't seen it.
By the way, it's hard to know who to root for in that fight. Given that
Rand Paul
both
easily,
schmucks,
because as bad as Rand Paul is, Markwayne Mullin is
he's awful. Without commenting on the stakes of the fight, I don't want him approved by no means. That I'm not betting on the stakes here, but in terms of Rand Paul versus Markwayne Mullin, I would take Rand Paul on, his voting record and policy record, because Mullin hasn't got one. I just want to say that during the confrontation at some point, Part of the confrontation is a history during which, at some point in years past, Mullin had said, "I see what your neighbor was thinking," essentially to Rand Paul. I see why your neighbor beat you up,
and I totally understand it. And Rand Paul called him out specifically on that,
right?
As the first 10 minutes of the hearing, and
I would
gave
not be
Markwayne Mullin a chance to
Paul.
apologize. Mullin refused. Mm-hmm. So then Rand Paul says, I
like that.
Questions about your anger control issues. Let me play a tape from back in the day when we were at a hearing and we had one of your now supporters who was a union guy, and you threatened to take him outside and have a fist fight.
Yeah.
And then he played that tape.
By the way.
And I guess sitting next to Mullin was Bernie Sanders, because you could hear his voice.
Yes. It was
a disaster. And Mullin says, I could kick your ass. You want to take this outside, or you want to do this right here? And the other guy says, let's do this right here. Yeah. And Mullin says, fine. And he stands up and he takes his jacket off, and you could hear Bernie Sanders next to him say, sit down. You're a U.S. Senator.
Sit down. You're a U.S. Senator. You're a United States Senator. Sit down.
Right. And I'm just picturing the next thing he was going to say is, you can't have fighting in the war room. Right out of Dr. Strangelove.
Oh, my God.
And so,
you're being ridiculous. I just want to do more Bernie Sanders.
Yeah, Larry David. So, Mullin needs to be not gotten out of committee. I don't know what Fetterman's going to do. Fetterman originally said, I'll probably support him. Now he's saying you have to wait and see. I'm mulling this over. I'm mulling it over.
Why doesn't he fight
what to
him?
do?
Fetterman could probably fight him. Do it.
Yeah. But I don't know what Fetterman's going to do. The assumption is that Mullin will pass, but that still doesn't open up the government. And now there's a discharge petition to fund everything else except ICE that Hakeem Jeffries is putting together. And, discharge petitions these days might happen.
That's right. Sit down.
And that was said to Mike Johnson, who is the Speaker of the House, who has no control whatsoever over what happens.
I said he is standing. What?
Sit down. Stand up.
I can't tell.
Stand down and sit up.
Right. It's either Bernie Sanders or Ben Stern. Howard Stern's dad sounds a lot like that too. But all right. Well, I remember Bernie Sanders' voice for it well enough. So that was that's a good confrontation. It was very bitter. And, of course, Rand Paul, he has this personal beef with Mullen, and he's chairing the committee that's holding his confirmation hearings. That's never a good start. I don't think Mullen has resigned his Senate seat in anticipation of this thing, and smart, because I'm not positive that goes through.
Yeah, I don't know. This is one of those.
I gotta
would
tell
have
you,
a week ago, but given the war, I don't know what happens now.
Yeah, there's that, and Rand Paul makes some very good points. I mean, you don't have to hand it to him, but if you did hand it to him and I didn't see it, I wouldn't be too upset. But
he did a very good job outlining Mullen's anger.
Yes,
issues.
that was an excellent point, really. And to say,
And then he went on to say,
he said more.
Are we really sure we want to put somebody with anger issues in charge of ICE at a time like this when people are questioning whether or not too much force is being used? Are we really sure that this is what we want to do?
It was
and that's what he
point.
uses as excuse for saying I'm voting no.
Yeah.
It's not personal.
Right.
Even
maybe.
Though it's personal.
Yeah, he certainly has his own personal gripes, but he's got an excellent point there, at a point where the anger issues of the people Mullen proposes to oversee are obvious and under discussion. Do you want this guy in charge? I mean, if there's anybody, can you make it worse than Kristi Noem? At least Kristi Noem, well, maybe she did have anger issues.
But that's the thing. The thing that bothers me most about this is that if he gets confirmed, he's a step up from Kristi Noem and Corey Lewandowski, who has his own anger issues.
Yes, a step. What do we mean by a step up? I'm not even. You mean he's an improvement?
He's committed to not overly militarizing ICE and trying to tamp down. That's what his testimony
I guess so. Yeah. I mean, I don't believe him, but
Kristi Noem defended everything and said, "You people
That's
who
true.
are accusing me of doing this are all commie
as much as
traitors."
Don't believe Mullen and think he's just shining people on. Noem couldn't even figure out that.
Yeah.
So okay.
So
all right,
Kristi Noem couldn't even lie about it. She did the Pam Bondi thing of, if you're asking me any kind of question I have to answer, I'm attacking you personally.
Yes.
And Mullen didn't go that way. He said, I totally understand the issues and I commit to not invading people's homes without a warrant.
That was nice, but that's Constitution already.
Yeah, but I understand. It's just that Noem said, I don't have to pay attention to that.
Right. Well, she didn't know what it was.
He is a step up from Noem.
That is astonishing. Sit down.
And that is astonishing.
You're a step up from Noem.
Sit up and stand down is like a step up from Noem. And Noem is that gives you an idea of how bad Noem was.
Yeah. Right. Well, that's true. And yet, Rand Paul has an excellent point in saying, no, you shouldn't be there. And that's not even to get to all the other people tried to investigate his serial fabulism. There's nothing on his resume you can be sure is actually true.
Yeah, that also happened. So
which
during
sucks
the hearing,
as well.
He claims that he was on a secret mission that only four people knew about.
Oh my God, I forgot. Yeah.
And so Blumenthal and some of the other people on the committee say, well, wait a minute, prove it. So they drag him into a skiff and he does a private presentation. And the Republicans come out saying, okay, that's weird, but, let's move on. And the Democrats are saying, guy's making it up. He's a fabulist. He wasn't on any kind of secret mission.
There isn't.
He had a non-disclosure agreement. That's not the same thing as classified thing that you can't talk about to anybody.
Yeah, it's really something. He's telling the committee that he was, as a congressman, when he was in the House, recruited to do a secret mission that required like military style training and
military style plumbing.
Yes, right. And but he said he had Siri training, like the survival training that they give to commandos and pilots.
There's a general whose toilet was stuffed up, and I had to go out there and clean it. But it was secret; nobody could know.
And he's insisting that he's being recruited for this highly dangerous secret military mission, and he's telling other members of Congress this as though they weren't members of Congress and didn't know, yeah, that's not a thing that happens. You don't recruit people from Congress to go on military missions. And if you did, by the way, you probably would start by saying, well, we should probably recruit somebody who's got military experience for this. And he hasn't got any. All he's got is he's semi-larger than most people, and he has a beard, and he says he was an MMA fighter. That's not a reason to recruit him for a secret mission.
Right. And by the way, he was not only an MMA fighter, he owns a company called Mullen Plumbing. That's how come everybody always makes fun of him as his only qualifications for being a senator. He's a plumber.
Well, at least that's something. That's a business, I guess.
Well, I don't even know if he's a plumber. He just owns a business.
Well, like Joe the Plumber. I bought it from somebody.
Joe the Plumber's an actual plumber.
Not now, he isn't. He's dead now, so.
And not anymore, yeah.
So, anyway, the point was, he's telling people this. I guess you could get away with maybe trying this in in one of the Midwestern diners where they're not sure whether it's really the case.
Yeah, it was an Navy SEAL. What are you going to say about it?
Yeah, and he wasn't a Navy SEAL. He wasn't a Navy anything. He wasn't in any armed forces. He has no military experience. His MMA experience is highly questionable, as it turns out, too. And the idea that he would be recruited out of Congress.
He tried to use it in the Senate to fight union leaders till Bernie Sanders stopped him.
Right. Sit down. You don't have enough experience. I question your record. And
let's take this to a skiff.
I mean, the one time, by the way, anybody has seen him in anything like combat that we actually have footage of is January 6th when the protesters were outside the doors of the House Hall, and he's wisely, I think, crouched down between the seats. But on the other hand, there's people who are, the Capitol Police are at the doors with their handguns saying, well, if they come through, I'm fighting. Whereas the fighting guy is underneath the chairs, and quite visibly so. But you don't recruit members of the House to go on secret missions. Members of the House and members of the Senate know this because I've never been asked to go on one, and I'm tougher than he is, or I've been in the military. And lastly, I think in his explanation, the timeline of all this, he says, well, they came to me in 2015. This was a mission scheduled to go in 2016, and I can't tell you. But he does there's a whole like Canadian girlfriend angle to this thing. I can't tell you. Where were you going to go? It's classified. When were you going to go? Well, besides 2015, 16, I can't tell you. What region of the world? Why? Who asked you? Classified. Oh, I told you it was classified. So on top of the idea that they would recruit a non-military weirdo who's like a second-term congressman from Oklahoma with no military experience to go on a secret mission, 2015, 2016, Barack Obama is asking Mark Wayne Miller, who has no military experience, to please train for a super secret mission. Don't tell anybody. Are you kidding? And they're all sitting there saying, yes. So I'm surprised that they went into a skiff and talked about it, and Republicans came out and said, well, maybe. How could they even get that far? Who would ask them to go on this mission? Who?
So
he's insane. By the way, the best theory I've seen on it was that he was actually like catfished over the internet he was going on this mission, obviously, for a Nigerian prince who only needed him to send him Walmart gift cards to buy him body armor. Right. It's that level
Dearest,
of insanity.
We need you here.
Yeah, there's no situation think about if you had a secret mission, wouldn't you go to somebody who was like, well, I was in the SEALs. I would talk to that guy. I was a plumber and I lift weights. Is that enough? No, it is not enough. That's what he's asking people to do. And Republicans came out and said maybe
voting no. That's all I can tell you. I hope that'll convince Fetterman.
Well, we probably should have just convinced.
I hope Fetterman's listening to this show so that he gets the whole big picture.
All right. Yes. Right.
So, and some breaking news here.
Oh.
Again from Idris Ali, the
Hello,
Reuters national security guy.
Yeah. I know one other Idris.
I need you to interpret this for me,
dearest,
because I don't fully grasp it. Here is what he says. The U.S. may soon remove sanctions from Iranian oil that is stranded on tankers to help lift global supplies and reduce prices, U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent said on Thursday. The guy who says, don't worry about prices, that's the least of our concern, says that they're going to remove sanctions from Iranian oil. who, by the way, we are currently at
bombing
war with.
Yeah. I guess my only explanation for that, well, Mike Cernovich will certainly object. My guess is that Scott Bessent and Donald Trump, and probably, I guess, Donald Trump Jr. have bought futures in or have some interest in the delivery of this Iranian oil, and then everybody thought it wasn't going to be delivered. And I don't know what the terminology
and now
is.
They're going to
bets
bet
against
it.
Shorts
My
it
Senator
somehow.
Chris Murphy is introducing legislation to prevent betting markets from politicians on issues.
Yeah, good. It's about time. But I guess I have no explanation. I thought it was inexplicable to remove sanctions on Russian oil. But to follow up removing sanctions on Russian oil with removing sanctions on Iranian oil, I don't know. I cannot tell. I got nothing for you other than somebody is doing something horribly illegal, or it's just like, let's see what. I'll bet on Kalshi. I'm going to take the no position on, is there anything that Donald Trump could possibly do, no matter how crazy, to be, recognized as a traitor and charged with treason? I'm going to take the no, but I'm going to drive the stakes up by removing sanctions on Russian oil, removing sanctions on Iranian oil, nominating an Ayatollah for my Secretary of Commerce. What else can I do here? Can I make it any worse? Is there an explanation? Is that to drive down oil prices by allowing Iran to sell its oil? And is Iran having trouble selling its oil? They're the ones that can get through the Strait of Hormuz, by the way.
Right. Ben Rhodes writes, 3 weeks into the war and Trump is lifting sanctions on Iran and Russia and enraging Gulf, European, and Asian allies. Real strategic genius at work here.
I guess so. I assume that Scott Bessent has words to say in response to that question. What are you doing?
With a smile.
Yeah. But I don't know what they are, and I haven't seen them, and I'm not sure that they will address anything. I mean, the words also, by the way, may be a non sequitur. President Trump
I know what he'll
is the
say. He'll
strongest
smile and
person
say,
ever.
the American people and the people of the world may suffer, but that's not really our primary concern
that's,
right now.
That's Hassett, right?
No, but
is he the one that answers that, or is it Bessent?
It's the party line.
Yes. I mean,
Hassett
I guess
didn't
everybody
just
has
make
to say
that up.
Oh, okay. I don't know. I mean, I guess he could have.
We don't care.
Yeah. The only people who are really going to be hurt by this is consumers.
Right. Remember George H.W. Bush, message I care?
Yeah.
This is like message we don't care.
Right. I guess not. I don't know. I don't think I can unravel lifting sanctions on Iranian oil. So I don't know. I thought when I read it, I thought, oh, he misspoke. He meant Russian, which also makes no sense, but he's already said that. So, okay. But no, he meant Iranian oil. I am at a loss. Are we at war? Modern war, it's so confusing. I don't know who to blow up. But I'm trying to think about now whether does this make any more sense given the babble about Israel or not? And the answer is no. It doesn't help me either. Well, we have, you and I together, between us, have until Monday to figure this out. It may change over the weekend. Trump will be flying on an airplane somewhere, and he'll be, Zambia did it. Yeah, okay, sure. I don't know. Lifting sanctions on Iranian oil. Okay, well, Brent crude for everyone, I guess.
Gold prices are dropping as
why?
Arab Gulf states sell their assets to raise money.
Oh, okay. I see. Well, I should buy those assets.
Well, weird.
But I don't want to fund the war. Yeah,
the entire world has changed, and it's very difficult to simply go back. Trump has run out of opportunities to say, I was only kidding, forget it, you're on your own, and leave.
It's
so
interesting.
It's really hard to see how this ends.
Yeah, and with the Gulf guys selling their gold and driving the prices down, Trump's decor is worth less than ever. He may try to play it as a win for the ballroom, though. He can outfit the ballroom for less.
Right. Patrick DeHaan, the gas buddy guy, writes, higher gasoline and diesel prices are now costing the U.S. economy $500 million more every single day and rising versus 3 weeks ago. So I sent you a video at the very, very end there I'm going to make you play. It's only 50 seconds, but it's our good friend Jerome Powell.
Hey.
And he has a few things to say.
All right. I'm free. I guess is basically saying. We haven't updated
what he's
everybody
saying
on.
Is, I'm staying.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go.
But that's not what this video is about.
No. He can snap up all the
you
gold
can't fire
for
me.
retirement. You'll be able to get him 2 retirement watches at this rate. All right. It's taking a while to load here, but Aaron Rupar.
Yeah.
Okay. Powell. All right. Let's see. Well, it's going to start to autoplay, but we'll pause it. It'll autoplay with no sound. Now we're ready to go. Jerome,
good at this.
it's your turn. Tell us what you have to say. Thank you, Senator Sanders.
But the thing that I think good number of people on the committee are concerned about is just the very, very low level of job creation. If you adjust what has been the trend job creation over the past, let's say, 6 months, if you adjust that for what we think, our staff thinks, is the overstatement due to overcounting, effectively there's zero net job creation in the private sector. But actually that looks like that's about what the economy needs in terms of dealing with very, very low, non-existent really, growth in the labor force, which of course we've never had in our history. So you've got a sort of a zero employment growth equilibrium. Now that's balance, okay, but I would say it does have a feel of downside risk, and it's not kind of a really comfortable balance. So, but the thing that I think...
I don't know what happened.
That's bad.
I guess.
Remember Jobs Friday, where we always look to see how many jobs he created?
Yeah.
What if it's 0?
Yeah, what if it is?
What if it's -1?
Oh, well.
Then that's recession.
Yeah, I guess. Although, who is the one is the question.
Yeah, even if it's my brother-in-law, that's, if that's 4 months in a row, that's a recession.
I see.
If it feels like a recession, even though the economy is strong, this is why.
Okay. I don't know. What can I tell you? This is quite amazing. Ugh. All right. Powell has a way of making it extremely boring, however, but that's his job.
Well, but you know what? That's his job on the one hand.
It's stayed
and on
quiet,
the other hand, it's one of the
exciting.
last of the truly independent Trump agencies.
Yeah, that's true. One of the ones that, for whatever reason, the Supreme Court insists that one has to be left alone. Sure, fine, okay. That is exciting. I'm stuck now on a Twitter page thanks to the reference to that video, and I was dismayed because I have a personal interest, dismayed to see that Lehigh University is a trending topic. I don't know why that is. I imagine it has something to do with the basketball. Nobody's in my bracket. I stopped doing brackets, and it's a great relief. I am so saddened by not participating, but I am relieved by not having to go through the operation of making these picks. It's driving me crazy. Lehigh would never be. Well, if they were in my brackets, I would not be picking them. I'm a Lafayette College graduate. That's the great rivalry there. So. Yeah, I know things.
But if they won, it would be the Super Bowl of March Madness, wouldn't it?
Well, for them it would. I'd be. Well, actually, I don't care that much. But so I was wondering.
You're talking Williams Amherst here, right?
Kind of
stuff.
This is a sign of an apocalypse if they're trending for something. But I think they are trending because they lost an important. Maybe they were trying to play into the tournament. And it looks to me, my quick scan, like everybody had them as a lock to win over Prairie View A&M, and they did not win over Prairie View A&M. So all the gamblers are mad, I guess. And so are the people in Lehigh.
New poll out this morning from Yahoo YouGov, 24% of 2024 Trump voters. 24% of 2024 Trump voters. Those who voted for Trump in 2024, 24% of them disapprove of Trump on Iran.
I saw one of them at a gas
station. A quarter
station.
of his voters.
Yeah. Great. You
17%
saw the interview?
of Republicans disapprove, so he's losing, small.
I am
Strong
told
approval
you can't
is
win
under
this
50%
way.
for both groups. Strong approval of Trump from Trump voters is under 50%.
That's the only kind of approval they have, I thought. Strong, very strong, stronger like you've never seen before. kind of support. But okay, I'm sure by now you've seen the video of the woman interviewed at the gas station who voted for him 3 times and is very upset with him and herself.
Yeah, and herself.
Yeah, I see people are saying, this woman is pardoned. She's the only one, but this woman is pardoned.
If you're searching for the video, it was done by Jonathan Allen of NBC.
Is that right? Okay.
Yeah. He was out in Pennsylvania interviewing Trump voters.
I can't play it for you.
Got this lady to admit that, he said, what do you think of Trump now? Well, not
he's
for prime time comment.
Lying piece of, I believe.
And you voted for him? Yeah, I voted for him 3 times because I'm an idiot.
Yeah, but that doesn't help me. I mean, it was funny, but
it was pretty
now
funny.
what am I going to do? Yeah, it was nice to see. This was not a diner. This was a gas station. You can get people mad about the price of gas. They get angry. Price of pancakes, not so much.
He went to a good place to look.
Yeah. Well, a gas station. So you're going to find the anger there. That's true.
Yeah, exactly.
Also, the gold trading pits, I guess.
No fool he.
All right. Yeah. Here's breaking news. The answer is that the Senate committee has advanced Mark Wayne Mullin's nomination 8-7. Rand Paul votes no. Fetterman votes yes.
There you go.
Doy. So there you go. Thank you, Pennsylvania. And then everybody says, where does what was his name? Where did the other guy who was running against him go to get his apology? He doesn't need an apology.
Well, the soon-to-be former senator of Pennsylvania, because he can't win a primary.
Yeah, I guess not. I mean, I don't know whether he was impressed with the MMA thing, but it's my fault. We didn't get to finish the story about how his MMA record is fake, but we'll do that now as his nomination heads to the floor. No one will care there either, but maybe we can reach Fetterman in between, and he can redeem himself. All right. Well, I would tell you to come back tomorrow, but tomorrow is Friday. I mean, you could do it anyway. I will say this all the time. Go away and come back tomorrow, and I'll leave the door open if you feel like it. But no, we'll wait until Monday.
Let's hope nothing bad happens, so I feel like I have to come.
Yeah, right. I know. I'd be worried if you decided to come back on a Friday. So Monday it'll be, right, and chaos, vortex, plus war. You never know what we'll be talking about then, but we look forward to seeing you then and hearing about it. All right, welcome back now to the Kagro in the Morning Show here on Netroots Radio. Yes, so just before the break, I guess I should have grabbed that Blue Sky post, what said it to us. But all right, here's we got one of them anyway. Kyle Griffin telling the story. The Senate Homeland Security Committee just voted to advance Mark Wayne Mullin's nomination to be Trump's DHS Secretary 8-7. Rand Paul voted no. John Fetterman voted yes. Bad news, but honestly, the chances that it wasn't going to advance were pretty small. But I don't know. If they had stretched it out a little bit, I feel like they could have generated more negative feelings or maybe even reached Fetterman. But maybe nothing can reach Fetterman. Yesterday we were reading the stories about how bad he is. So like I said, I blame myself. I didn't. But, Fetterman could have read these things for himself or had them read to him, depending on how he is with the reading and such post-stroke. I know was something of a problem for him. But there was, let me scroll back. Here we are. Mark Wayne. Remember this one? Mark Wayne's World. I love that title. The cinematic and fantastical life of Trump's DHS pick. And I think we can skip down I think we've stressed and made clear for everybody how crazy his claim of having been recruited to a secret mission of some sort really is. I mean, it's just it would be rejected in a James Bond style writing session, for some sort of international spy thriller to recruit a member of Congress for a diplomatic mission, maybe not him, but for a diplomatic mission, maybe even for a spy mission, maybe. But the idea that he was being recruited for a military style mission. And remember, this was his answer to the questions posed by members of the committee. And here, I think Gary Peters was doing the questioning, asking him about that really strange, very poetic, but strange story about, or description of the nature of war. War is ugly. It smells bad. And if anybody's ever been there and been able to smell the war that's happened around you and taste it and feel it in your nostrils, and again, nostrils, and then hear it, which is not what you do with your nostrils, but it's another function, another sense. I understand. It's something you'll never forget, and it's ugly. And so Gary Peters asked, so where did you smell war? Because you're not a veteran. Where would you be to have smelled? You didn't even tour a war area as a member of Congress. And that's when he comes up with this insane excuse of, well, I was recruited for a secret mission. And I guess I feel like I can see the gears turning in his head. Well, if I tell him it's a secret mission and it's all classified, then when they ask me for corroborating details, I can say it's classified. And then they'll all believe me because that's tactical to say classified. I can't tell you it's classified. You're not even worthy of knowing. But now I'm surprised to find out that they went into the skiff and he gave them an explanation, and then these idiots came out of there saying, yeah, or I don't know, but it could have happened. It's extremely dumb, just as a tactic to use with members of Congress. There's just no freaking way. Plus, on top of it all, to say that in 2015, the president is Barack Obama. Barack Obama's military is recruiting out of all the people in Congress. Mark Wayne Mullen, then, I guess, when did he get elected? In 2012? So, 13, he's in his second term, or, early-ish in his second term in Congress. He's a total nobody. No reason in the world to recruit him for anything. Even if you were like, the secret mission is, I don't know why we have to do this, but I can't tell you. In fact, it's classified. But just suffice to say, we need a MMA fighter to do a secret MMA fight in a classified area for classified reasons. Where are we going to get one? And well, one thing, suppose you propose that to Barack Obama. He's a level-headed guy. I don't know why. Let me be clear. I don't know why we need this. But we do. And America does need an MMA fighter. Where should we get one? And probably somebody would have said, well, I don't know. Who would suggest this? Rahm Emanuel says, I have an idea. There's a guy in Congress, that's here in Washington. We can talk to him. He's a Republican, but what can I tell you? He's a former MMA fighter. This is a secret. We need to know that the secret guy can keep a secret. And nobody says, I have an idea. Why don't we talk to the MMA champions? So we'll talk to the Ultimate Fighting Championships guys. They're all MMA fighters. Surely there's one more suitable to this mission. Well, I don't know. Are they as smart as a member of Congress? It's a close call. I don't know. There's no... I wish I was in the skiff to hear what he had to say. Then we would have that much more material to tell you. Now, if he was recruited, just to throw this part out, let's say he's recruited because I don't know why they need a member of Congress. They don't, but they decide they do. Barack Obama says, all right, I got to have one, but he's got to be a Republican. Maybe that's the most believable part of this. Well, in order to do this right, it's the military, and you know how America is about these military missions. We need a Republican to do this. Or, on the other hand, this is going to go horribly wrong. This is a dumb plan. Let me be clear, this is a dumb plan, and there's no way this is ever going to work. Get me a Republican to do it. No Democrat would agree to do this, or we don't want to blame it on one. I don't know. I don't know why I'm spending so much time trying to figure out a way that you could get to this conclusion. You can't. He didn't do this. All right. Anyway, if you're recruiting him based on, well, he's an MMA fighter. Well, hold on. No, he isn't. I told you the story. I think we managed to fit this in, that he claims a 5-0 undefeated record in mixed martial arts. But it turns out they can only document 3 wins. They don't know where the other 2 are coming from, and he won't say. And then the sports bloggers dig into it, and it turns out 1, 3-0, that's something. 3, right? 3 wins. That's more MMA fights than I've won. So, great. What's the story? Well, it happens that 2 of the wins were against, what's the guy from the old boxing video game? Glassjaw Joe or whatever. This guy who lost every one of his fights, basically. Or he won one. The other guy had terminal cancer and died before the bout. And so he was 1-11. And this and of all the people in the world fighting in MMA, and granted, they do say it wasn't as popular or widespread back then, but Mark Wayne Mullen, taking on the world, manages to draw this guy twice. So, I don't know. But then they also point out, well, he wasn't fighting in the UFC. That's the thing that comes to mind. He was an MMA fighter and a champion at that. You mean he won in the Ultimate Fighting Championship? Because presumably he won in a championship. And I guess if you're going to run for Congress on it, it better be the ultimate one. No, it's the Extreme Fighting League, an Oklahoma-based promotion that often featured amateur fighters making their professional debut. He fights this guy twice in what they say appears to be something like a semi-pro MMA league based in Tulsa. It's not the one on TV, UFC Championship, 250 or whatever, and broadcast on pay-per-view or on the White House lawn, for God's sake, in the middle of the 250th anniversary celebrations. Nothing like that. It is, as these sports bloggers said, kind of like playing on a company softball league. And, if you win 3 championships, although that's misstating the case. He didn't win 3 championships. He won 3 bouts. It's like playing in a company softball league and winning 3 games and then running for the Senate as being a softball champion, which, of course, would be nice if you actually were a champion, but he isn't. And also, who cares about softball? It's a nice game, but nobody has ever said they were, deserved a seat in the Senate because of that. Anyway, there's more. If you think the fabulism isn't clearly enough illustrated, Hunter Walker goes on, despite the questions about his martial arts records, Mullen has allegedly told even more dramatic tales about his exploits inside his office. Not the exploits that he had in the office, but telling tales about exploits to people while they were inside his office listening to him. That's what he's saying. TPM spoke to a person who is currently an actual, verifiable, real, honest-to-God Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu coach. And, if you're not familiar, it is, in fact, one of the most popular training styles for MMA fighters. It's the style, the dominant style for these guys who fight in the UFC. It's, you got everything you need in that style. So, a Brazilian jiu-jitsu coach who said that they interviewed several years ago for a staff position with Mullen's house office. I guess he didn't get it, so he stuck with his day job coaching the martial arts. Now, this coach claimed that Mullen told an elaborate story about his own journey at the sport's highest levels because, obviously he's an international star, having won 3 bouts, 2 of them against the biggest loser in the semi-pro Tulsa fighting league. So that's quite a jump, right? So in the middle of the interview, this coach who interviewed for a job says that Mullen says, "Oh, I see you have jiu-jitsu on your resume. I'm a black belt world champion," this coach recounted. While the coach requested anonymity because they continue to work in proximity to politics as well as martial arts, still trying to make the crossover to politics, and to have tried to make it in with Mullins' gang. I guess it says where they're coming from politically. I hope they were just saying, well, I heard he claims to be into Brazilian jiu-jitsu. Maybe my resume will work there and not elsewhere, despite the fact that he's a clown and I hate MAGA. I don't know whether that's really the case. I don't think so. But I'm just wondering. Anyway, it doesn't matter for these purposes. While the coach requested anonymity because they're still trying to get to work in politics, which I guess that to me means still happening on the Republican side. TPM verified their BJJ, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, affiliations. The coach also provided documentation of their interview with Mullen. And notice the pronouns here, not trying to gender it. Maybe that's for the anonymity thing, or, maybe that's their pronouns. I don't know. Anyway, they also shared a more contemporaneous account of the incident on Reddit roughly 2 years ago. It's been longer than that since he's been in the House. So this is a story that they've shared with others, not just when Mullen was in the spotlight. In the coach's recollection, Mullen went on to say he, quote, went down to the World Championships in Brazil. Like, where are you going to have the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu Championships? In Brazil. Great. So, authenticity, but also something you really probably can't check on. It happened in Brazil. There's no record keeping or internet in Brazil, right? So he said he went down to the World Championships in Brazil and he had fought in the finals against one of the members of the Gracie family, if I'm pronouncing it correctly. It's spelled, Gracie. I've seen it all over the place. These are essentially the inventors of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, the family. And they've been the champions of everything since forever. Anyway, this is, as they point out, the clan, the Gracie family, that helped create both the sport of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and the Ultimate Fighting Championship. Mullen allegedly claimed, this coach said, that he had defeated the Gracie family member by, quote, using all my wrestling, which, well, what would help you defeat one of the inventors of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu in Brazil? And the answer is, I went over his head with wrestling, which, is a pretty big part of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. So anyway, afterwards, all the Gracie brothers came up to me and asked if I could come to Brazil to teach wrestling, Mullen allegedly said, according to the coach. But instead, of course, he, came to run for Congress and do secret missions. Do you think this happened? I don't know. But the coach, this is revealing. The coach says he asked, well, which of the Gracies was it that Mullen supposedly fought? And he claims Mullen replied that he didn't specifically remember. The fame of the Gracie family, the well-documented nature of high-level jiu-jitsu competitions, and the fact that Mullen did not name a specific opponent made the coach immediately skeptical. I'll just let him say it in his own words. It's quite right. In my mind, I was like, there's just no way. If you competed in the World Championships of anything, you would know exactly who you competed against, the coach explained. There is just no way that this guy is telling the truth. And I was like, I don't even think he's a black belt. That's entirely possible, too. I think that's look-upable, especially in something organized like Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. There's a database, I'm sure, somewhere. Maybe not. I don't know. There's a database in Taekwondo. I don't know. Maybe every sport's not the same that way. But excellent point. If you make it to the World effing Championships, allegedly, of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu in Brazil against one of the inventors of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and then you're like, I don't remember which one. I don't know what his name was. I don't know. No, that's called I got caught in a lie. And if I mention one of the 2 or 3 Gracie names that people in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu actually know, you'll say, you beat that guy in the World Championships of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and you're not world famous? No way. So he just chickened out and said, I don't know, it was one of their distant cousins, Al Gracie. I don't know. But they said I could call him Don. In case that's a name you recognize. It's ridiculous. Now, this isn't testimony to the committee, but what can I tell you? It's out there. So the improbable tale completely distracted the coach. So I'm sitting there in the interview. I'm bombing the interview, by the way. I did terrible, the coach said, because he's so distracted by what a liar this guy is. But maybe it's all for the best. Mullen's team did not answer questions from TPM about the coach's account, including whether Mullen is a black belt. The senator does have some documented history with Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, because they document stuff. A 2013 report from the House Ethics Committee, which was investigating Mullen for earning outside income above allowed limits and for promoting his personal business as a member of Congress, noted that he was president and owner of Oklahoma Fight Club. The investigators ultimately concluded that Mullen had sought advice from the committee's staff, the ethics committee staff, about his family business and substantially complied with most of that advice. Corporate records also link Mullen to Oklahoma Fight Club, which was an MMA gym that offered jiu-jitsu classes in Broken Arrow, Oklahoma. Records show that as a member of Oklahoma Fight Club, Mullen participated in a jiu-jitsu competition in Miami at a blue belt level in 2010. He won a match there, and that's got a link to the evidence that he won a match. I'm sure blue belt is not something, nothing to sneeze at, whatever, but is it black? It's not. Those achievements are a far cry from holding a black belt or winning a championship, a world championship indeed, in Brazil against the inventor of the sport. A win of that magnitude would typically be extensively documented. Black belts are also are a high honor that often come with certificates when granted by reputable coaches. There are 5 typical belt levels in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, by the way. Black belt is the highest and can usually only be achieved with well over a decade of regular training and competition. I don't know if it takes that long or not, but I'll take their word for it. Blue belt is the second level and usually takes around 2 years to earn. That sounds certainly doable by somebody who's only, even casually interested in it, but attending classes for 2 years, sure, I can buy it. Overall, the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu coach who interviewed with Mullen said that in light of his position in the Senate, they were disturbed by the gulf between his alleged claims in the interview and his actual record. The experience left them with one big lingering question. I'm like, this guy's lying about this. What else is the guy lying about? That was the question posed back on, when did they write the thing? On Friday of last week. On Tuesday of this week, the 17th. And we now have the answer. He is also lying about secret missions with the military or near the military or things that smelled like they were military. And that's it. And yet he has made it past committee because they didn't care, I guess, or know what a gigantic liar he is. Now, there's, what did I want to follow that one up with? Oh, you know what? Is there audio attached? I think maybe some of the video clips that Aaron Rupar was circulating yesterday are in this. I happened to see I've got it backwards. Radley Balco, not Bradley Ralco, but Radley Balco. Oh, makes a great username to go around as Bradley Ralco. Remarking on this same situation. Gary Peters asking Mark Wayne Mullen what the effing F is going on here. By the way, it's interesting that they have him sitting at the witness table just as the Honorable Mark Wayne Mullen as opposed to Senator Mark Wayne Mullen, which if he hasn't resigned, they should be calling him that. But okay, I don't know why it doesn't say that on his name tag. But here's Radley Balco asking, what? Mullen is claiming that as a congressman, he was selected for some sort of mission that required training that was, quote, hell, and was then sent somewhere where he smelled war. But it's all classified, and only 4 people know about it, and he can't share any more details. It's really rather ridiculous. And, there's a video of it, and it looks like it's like a 3-minute clip, which is longer than I'm normally comfortable sharing. But what the hell? Let's give it a shot. I got to move it to the right computer in order to do it. But it's just bizarre. And Peters is, of course, more than professionally patient with this idiotic set of answers that he's getting. And Rupar, quotes some of it in the Post, but, maybe it just pays to hear it in context. Let me see if I can't get this thing to open up Yeah, and we might be able to shoehorn it in here before the break. Well, what the hell? Let's give 3 minutes over to this fabulous. Although the vote has come and gone, so it's just kind of sad.
Ever an employee, volunteer, or otherwise involved with the Department of Defense,
this is
State
Peters.
Department, or other U.S. agency or contractor for any of those departments?
No. And Senator, I think there's a misunderstanding here that I could clear up if you want me to clear up for you.
You think?
Please?
Okay,
Please.
so this is official trip, and it is classified. But in 2015,
and I should pause here. Focus on what he's saying here. He's also playing a weird semantical game about classified, official, defense, and muddying the waters about what's going on here. And he's talking about an official trip in the context of being a member of Congress, taking an official trip. It makes a difference for reporting requirements with respect to disclosure to the committee when you're nominated to a high office cabinet seat or what have you. But between that and the classification idea, he's just freely moving back and forth. Like, of course, an official thing would be classified because everything we do is super secret, and that's just not the case. And again, he's speaking to senators who know very well what the requirements for reporting are and what the level of secrecy is around official trips taken as a member of Congress. But he's conflating it being an official business of Congress and an officially super secret military-ish or military-adjacent mission. And as Greg was pointing out, I guess at some point he has a non-disclosure agreement, and that, it's an NDA doesn't make something official business, and it doesn't make it classified business either. An NDA just means you're not supposed to disclose on pain of civil liability, or in some cases, I guess, could be a criminal liability, depending on who you're contracting with. Anyway, so here he thinks he's clearing things up for us.
Yep. And it is classified. But in 2015, I was asked to train with a very small contingency.
Contingent, I assume, not contingency, but he's a dummy.
Go to a certain area, which was scheduled for 2016. During that time, I was asked to go through, had to meet certain training qualifications, had to go through SEER training. The training and stuff was kind of fun. The SEER training was absolutely awful.
SEER training is, in fact, absolutely awful. And I think he's speaking here of, what's the acronym for? Survival, Evasion, Resistance, and Escape, SERE training, a rigorous U.S. military program, according to the AI overview, stupidly I'm accepting here, preparing high-risk personnel to survive in harsh environments, avoid capture, and resist interrogation if captured. The training, notably the 3-week Level C course, focuses on mental and physical endurance, covering land navigation, survival medicine, and escape techniques. So again, the claim here is that they're giving like Green Beret SEAL team level survival training to a second term and by this point middle-aged congressman who from the other party, remember this is under the Obama administration, who has no military experience whatsoever, but instead claims, 1, to own a plumbing business, 2, to own an ultimate fighting ring somewhere, and 3, seems to have won a couple of fights against the worst fighter in Tulsa. But, why don't we just recruit this guy?
And I have spoken general about my experiences, but I've never spoke specifically on details, on dates, or on the mission. And that was official, and there was nothing in the report to the committee. Actually, it said you do not have to claim any official trips. And like I said, that was an official trip that is classified.
So this is an interesting thing. He's saying, I guess Peters is also asking, besides, are you full of crap? How come you haven't disclosed this before on our questionnaire to you, standard questionnaire? Tell us about any classified things you might have been involved in, or trips that were paid for by outside sources, or gifts you might have accepted, that sort of thing. And he's saying, well, you said I didn't have to tell you about anything that was official, and this was official. Now, what they usually mean in this case about official trips is like when you go as part of a congressional delegation to visit Israel, for instance, and let's say your hobby is taking pictures of yourself putting your fingers up the nostrils of your colleagues and their colleagues' spouses when they're asleep on the plane or on the bus. Those sorts of things. I mean, that's not what you're supposed to be doing on this, but an official trip as a a member of Congress to do congressional business. Whatever it was he thought he was doing in secret would not be one of them. Hi, it's me, David. I mostly do the commercials around here, too. Have you ever thought you'd like to do a show like this one, but a lot shorter? Maybe without necessarily waking up early each day, or even, let's say, working at it each day? Well, now you can, sort of, and by now, I mean pretty much any time you want, because what I'm talking about is you recording a news story, sharing an essay, or otherwise contributing your thoughts on these crazy times with the rest of us, and with any digital recording device. Make the show your own, as I like to say. Send me a digital file of your recording, a link to any source material, and a note about how you'd like to be identified on the air at KagroX, that's KAGROX, at gmail.com, and I'll take it from there. Don't worry about those ums and ahs either. I sure don't, but I'll even do my best to edit your submission down into a nice-sounding dispatch from the field. So come on, everybody, make the show your own. Help me prove once and for all that I'm not just imagining this audience. All right, welcome back, everyone, to the Kagro in the Morning Show here on Netroots Radio. One last segment for the day. I mean, it's insane. I guess we can continue playing the exchange between him and Peters, which then leads to them leaving the room and going to a skiff to discuss this stuff. And I found a news report or two that I could share with you. One from Courthouse News Service, which has a more dramatic headline. Sounds like more interesting than the cut and dried and somewhat sane-washed New York Times version of it. But let's hear what else he has to say about, again, his confusion about what official really means, or what I view as confusion about it. And I'm probably right, and he's probably wrong.
This is an official trip while you were a member of Congress?
Yes. 2015, 2016, I was a member of Congress. Some of it may be public, but it would be very small. Most of it, because of my recollection, which we're going back 10 years, I think there was only 4 people read in on it.
So where was that trip?
I just said it's classified, sir.
Yeah, you don't.
It's classified. So the letter that we sent to you said that we need to have information of any of these activities.
It said not official trips. Your paperwork was very clear, excluding any official trips. This
is interesting, too. Like, your paperwork was very clear. You're a senator, man. This is your paperwork. The Senate sent this to you, and you're a senator. But, yeah, this is interesting. And I think, again, my guess is that if there was anything at all behind this, if there was any germ of truth to this and he actually went on a trip, he thinks because he went on it and he was a congressman, that makes it official. But it's also classified. They asked, please tell us about any classified activity you've been involved in. And yeah, but it says I don't have to do it if it was official. It does say that, but what the paperwork says is you don't have to disclose who paid for official travel if there was in fact official travel. You have to declare that you took it, but you don't have to declare the rest of it. So tell us about anything else that you went on or any activities you were involved in that were classified. A different question involves an exemption for official travel, but you can't just mash all the things in all the pages together and say they all apply to every question. But he does.
It was an official trip as a member.
Well, we have more questions we're going to have to ask. When in the FBI report, I asked, is there anything in that report that is classified, that you were involved in any kind of classified operation at all? And there's none. So
it was also excluding. It also said excluding official duties. It says,
but there's nothing about, going to Syria training and training for super secret missions that are official duties of members of Congress, especially ones that have never been part of the military. It's insane.
That, and you guys have the paperwork in front of you, and it always says excluding official duties. We had this committee come to us and ask the same questions. We talked about doing mission work. We talked about doing mentorship, but they said official duties that was in your official capacity does not have to be talked about.
So where did you smell war?
Sir, I just said that this was classified, and the dates, locations, and admission, I've never spoke specifically details about.
Well, we can get that information.
That's fine.
Mr. Chair.
You're welcome to get it.
We will want to find out more information
That's
about that.
perfectly okay.
It's important
Senator.
to have the truth here, and that you're portraying yourself in a truthful way.
All right, so that's the end of that exchange as far as the clip that Aaron Rupar provided. So apparently, after this, they do in fact decide to adjourn to the SCIF to ask those questions. Mullen apparently says, I have zero issue talking about it, but I don't have the clearance to talk about it. He told members of the committee he would not tell lawmakers who assigned him the trip or who had classified it. Today is the first time I'm hearing about your classified activities from 2015 and 2016. Gary Peters, the top Dem on the panel, says, quite frankly, as we've had these conversations, you have not been forthcoming. Peters noted that the FBI had reviewed information from the State Department, the Pentagon, and other intelligence agencies for classified documents mentioning Mullen. By the way, again, reading from Courthouse News Service, this is Benjamin S. Weiss, writing under the headline, DHS nominee Mullen mystifies lawmakers with recounting of, quote, classified trip. So I've skipped down to the meat of it, where they, in fact, get some sort of discussion in the SCIF about what's going on. So Peters says, look, we checked around, and nobody has anything with any classified documents mentioning you. They said nothing showed up. The senator said, you're in no classified document that the federal government has, according to the FBI, and yet you're telling me you did all this classified work. Both Peters and committee chairman Senator Rand Paul asked Mullen if he would agree to brief lawmakers on the trip in the Senate's Sensitive Compartmented Information Facility. That's SCIF, SCIF. The DHS nominee was initially resistant, but later agreed if he could discuss the travel in a classified setting. Mullen agreed with members of the committee that anyone in the SCIF would need top secret / sensitive compartmented information security clearance, one of the highest U.S. government clearances. As they left the SCIF in the bowels of the Capitol Wednesday afternoon, senators who attended the classified briefing had little they were willing to say about what they heard from Mullen, but some lawmakers' comments appeared to contradict the supposedly clandestine status of the nominee's past travel. Connecticut Senator Richard Blumenthal told reporters that Mullen failed to answer serious questions about his supposed classified trip during the briefing. Some of his answers raised additional questions, and all of them go to his credibility, the senator said. Blumenthal added that he had really serious doubts about whether Mullen had been fully forthcoming in his testimony, and that he thought Paul should consider waiting to vote to advance the nominee out of the Homeland Security Committee while lawmakers seek clarity. This whole situation strikes me as weird, said the Connecticut Democrat. My personal impression is there is no need for this exchange to be classified, and why it was classified, and frankly, who classified it is still a mystery. This is of interest. And by the way, you should factor this into your weighing of Rand Paul's seriousness here. As the chair of the committee, he could have waited a day or two and found a way to delay holding this vote, though essentially he knew he was going to lose, and he decided to just go ahead and get it over with rather than give the story another day or two to cook. But I suppose it's possible he may think it's better if this percolates as we're waiting for his nomination vote or approval vote on the Senate floor. Okay. Well, anyway, Pennsylvania Senator John Fetterman, who appeared open Wednesday to supporting Mullen's nomination, and in fact was, said he thought his colleagues were preoccupied with a certain facet of the Oklahoma senator's testimony, but did not offer his own view. There was a specific issue. It wasn't my concern, but my colleagues had that, he said. And Mullins' fellow Oklahoma Senator James Lankford told reporters the nominee's supposedly classified trip was related to a whistleblower and argued that the issue was little more than Democrats trying to dig up fresh dirt on Mullen ahead of his DHS confirmation vote. He came in and got it laid out, Lankford said. Here's everything I can say and still honor non-disclosure on things. He gave a lot more detail than what he was able to do upstairs. Again, though, I mean, Siri training? Was there a reason for that? I mean, unless it was a whistleblower report about something wrong with what's going on in Siri training, and in order to understand it, he said, take me through it, whether he was really put me through the training or just show me what goes on. But he says he was training for a military-style mission. It's nuts. People are going to find whatever they want to find, Lankford added. You're going to print whatever you want to print. I'm saying that if you know the whole story on this, it's a mountain molehill situation. I'd love to know it. Let me know. Notably, Lankford referred to a non-disclosure when talking about the nature of Mullen's resistance to speak publicly about the 2016 trip. Asked about the difference between non-disclosure and classified. Yeah. He said there were different terms all being thrown around. Well, that was their hope, that everyone would get confused about it. I would use more the term of non-disclosure than classified, but I get those are two different things, he said. I think even Mark Wayne wasn't careful in trying to be able to articulate between the two, which, is going to be a fairly extensive problem for someone as the head of the DHS. Mullen, for his part, declined to comment as he left the skiff Wednesday afternoon. A spokesman for his office did not immediately return a request for comment on whether he was under a non-disclosure agreement related to his 2016 trip or if it was indeed classified. However, former House Speaker Kevin McCarthy, you remember that guy, who attended Mullen's hearing in the Homeland Security Committee, told reporters that his claims he was approved for a classified official trip in 2016 were 100% true, adding that he'd checked with the House Speaker at the time, former Wisconsin Representative Paul Ryan. For now, the uncertainty surrounding Mullen's supposed classified excursion doesn't seem to have affected the timetable for his nomination to lead DHS. The Homeland Security Committee is expected to vote to advance him. They did, as you know, on Thursday morning, though Paul has said that could be subject to change, but I guess he didn't exercise his option on that. The committee chairman who excoriated Mullen during Wednesday's hearing also said he'll oppose the nominee. If confirmed, Mullen will replace Noem at the Homeland Security Department once she leaves on March 31st. So there you go. I mean, it's awfully dumb. The whole thing is way suspect, to say the very least. And, all right, I'm going to have to stick that one in Instapaper for you to see. The New York Times had a much more staid headline about it, and I don't know if we have time to read their article, only to find out that they just covered the same stuff. I don't think they have any scoop here. Mullen faces questions about war zone observations. I mean, that's not nearly as damning, and it wasn't even the damning one, really, the courthouse news. Well, he baffled the committee. He left them puzzled as to what the hell he's talking about, even after going down to the skiff and trying to explain it. I don't know. I guess here they address the Siri thing here. Mullen brings that up, and they explain Siri is the Air Force's survival, evasion, resistance, and escape training program meant to prepare pilots for the possibility they might be shot down behind enemy lines in wartime. It was created after the Korean War when airmen who had been captured by communist forces were tortured and forced to produce propaganda tapes against the United States. The program includes undergoing various coercive interrogation techniques. After September 11th, when the CIA created its own program to torture high-value al-Qaeda suspects, it drew on Siri to craft the techniques it used. That's an interesting point to make alongside this. Mullen did not explain why a sitting member of Congress would go through the program, a highly unusual occurrence. The training and stuff, as he says, we heard him say, it was kind of fun. The Siri training was absolutely awful. And, I mean, there's just nothing else here. But they do make the point that it would be like stupid level unusual for any member of Congress from they weren't the minority then in the Congress, but it was a Democratic administration. It doesn't add up. It just doesn't. Okay. we can move on from that, though. I just thought that was rather amazing and, odd to see happening, to say the least. All right. What we haven't discussed today, and I don't know whether we won't. We just don't have the time for it today. Maybe it'll be a Friday thing, or maybe we just say, oh, well, damn. But we got to make mention of, the big news/historical story that broke yesterday in an enormous expose in the New York Times. The headline you will have seen, even if you haven't read all the way through it. Maybe you did out of curiosity. Cesar Chavez, a civil rights icon, is accused of abusing girls for years. Sarah, is it Hertes, Hurtes, for the New York Times, put this together, although I'm looking at it in the Instapaper thing, so maybe there's others on the byline here. Yes, Manny Fernandez actually comes first in the online version of it. The Instapaper thing tends to come out wonky, but it's an incredible story. I haven't read all the way through it. The reaction to it has been interesting too. As you might expect, we've had lots of practice with this, with rumors about the Epstein files and who may be in them and which prominent Democrats might be in them, and don't you want to protect your Democratic heroes? And the answer has been almost universally no, not really. If they did this stuff, everyone deserves to know about it, and there's no real reason to protect them. And so far, the reaction has been largely the same for Cesar Chavez, though he is, in fact, had been anyway, a civil rights icon, but now, of course, apparently one without any particular respect for the civil rights of half the population. But some really extraordinary revelations, and of course, the worst kind of abuse with very young girls and women of age of consent, but people who were colleagues and fighting alongside him and had every reason to fight back against this kind of abuse, but instead decided for strategic reasons not to. And I guess maybe the best illustration of that, and the best way to make this plain, I guess I probably screwed up in trying to put this thing in Instapaper, but I guess whatever. I guess I just didn't. I must have found it through Blue Sky and therefore not registered it properly. But long story short here, there is somewhere, and I'm pretty sure I must have resent it at some point when the Cesar Chavez news was breaking. Equally legendary, or at least nearly equally legendary, in the farm workers movement is Dolores Huerta, who put out a statement yesterday, and I don't know if I'm going to be able to find it all that easily, but maybe I'll just search it directly. Apparently was, in fact, among the women assaulted and by Chavez, and more than once, and it's astounding, and I don't know what to tell you except to read her statement if I can find it. I mean, geez, it should be. Is this the statement? I mean, this is the. I guess this is reprinted in the New York Times here, but I had just the press release. But I'll read you the New York Times article about it. Same writing team, although they've reversed the names on the byline here. Sarah Hertes, I guess Hurtes, and Manny Fernandez are reversed here. We're just seen as sex objects. Dolores Huerta's years in the UFW. The co-founder of the United Farm Workers talked about her relationship with Cesar Chavez and the night he raped her, which is, that's the way she put it. She said that there were at least 2 encounters, one which was apparently coerced but not quite non-consensual, and another which was in fact just flatly non-consensual but happened anyway, which makes it a rape. And I think she became pregnant from both and carried those children to term and put them in someone else's care. I don't know whether they were adopted or what, but I mean, it's about as traumatic an outcome as there could be. But she's explaining in her statement, and I guess in this article as well, just what motivated her. That essentially, look, the farm workers movement was her life. There was other people's lives at stake in all of this. And the question to her was, I don't know how easily, but was resolved in favor of just staying quiet, unfortunately, with respect to this sexual abuse, lest all of their work be undone for the thousands and thousands of people whose lives depended on that organizing work continuing, and not being able to discredit it all by being able to discredit Chavez personally. And I mean, I don't know what to say. I mean, this president won't be giving her a Presidential Medal of Freedom for it, but someone should. This is amazing. And so rather than linger on the accusations, which are amazing in themselves and you should absolutely read it, I will read you this story about her involvement in all this. In the days after Thanksgiving in 1986, Dolores Huerta was ready to celebrate. As one of the co-leaders of the United Farm Workers Union, she had spent 4 months in Washington lobbying lawmakers to pass the Immigration Reform and Control Act, 1986, landmark legislation that granted amnesty to millions of undocumented immigrants. Like, you can't throw that out, right? A news conference was scheduled to celebrate the victory, but Ms. Huerta said she was not made aware of the event. Instead, she said her fellow UFW leader, Cesar Chavez, told her there was a crisis in Florida that required her immediate attention. Ms. Huerta flew to Florida only to realize that the emergency was non-existent and no one was expecting her. She spent the next few days speaking at senior centers. I realized afterward they just wanted to get me out of the way so that they could take credit for the work, she said of her male co-workers in an interview last week. Straight male chauvinist trick, and I was really upset about that. In the interview, Ms. Huerta talked about the challenges she had faced as a woman in the machismo culture of the movement, which Mr. Chavez had come to dominate with sheer force of his personality. And some other things, by the way. And in a stunning disclosure, she said Mr. Chavez had sexually assaulted her on one occasion and manipulated her into sex on another. Encounters that produced 2 children. A New York Times investigation detailed strong evidence that Mr. Chavez had sexually assaulted several women in the farm workers movement and their children, including 2 young teenagers. Ms. Huerta and Mr. Chavez, standing together with raised fists at rallies and marches, were the public face of the Latino-led union organizing movement that swept through American farm fields in the 1960s. Now 95, Ms. Huerta is often referred to as the grandmother of the resistance. Her portrait hangs in some American embassies. She fought for years for better wages, maternity protections, and basic safety measures for women doing the backbreaking work of planting and harvesting crops. But in the interview, Ms. Huerta described a culture in UFW under Mr. Chavez that forced her to struggle to be heard and to suppress any negative feelings she felt about him and his leadership, including the trauma of rape. Ms. Huerta said the assault occurred in the winter of 1966 when she was at the People's Bar and Cafe in, is it Delano, California? I don't know. A well-known hangout for farm worker organizers. She was having a beer when Mr. Chavez stormed in, tapped her shoulder, and asked for a word. Assuming that the matter concerned an upcoming strike, she said she followed him outside. It was common for them to have meetings in the car. Mr. Chavez worried that his office was bugged. He drove her to a secluded grape field on the outskirts of town, she said, and assaulted her. She also described an earlier episode in 1960, 5 years after first meeting Mr. Chavez, in which she felt pressured and manipulated into having sex with him in a hotel room during a work trip in San Juan Capistrano in Southern California. After the assault in 1966, she was left in a numb, shocked state, she said, but she told no one. Not her friends, her family, not even her daughter born from the assault. She said she believed that the work of advancing rights for farm workers were more important and worried that publicly criticizing Mr. Chavez could tarnish the movement's legacy and be exploited by political opponents. Now, of course, everybody's going to have to undo all the things that they've named for him, and people are already saying they're going to do it. I saw him again as my boss, as my hero, as, you know, somebody that would do the impossible, she said. I never talked about it to anybody, and the reason I didn't is because I just didn't want to hurt the movement. Ms. Huerta said she viewed Mr. Chavez as a contradictory figure when it came to women. He believed in promoting them, she said, but only so far. Women ran the credit union, the clinic, the field offices. They were trusted with the operational machinery of the movement, but making the decisions that shaped the union's direction, she said, remained out of reach. Cesar believed in promoting women as leadership, not at the policy level, but at the work level, she said. It was, she suggested, a reflection of something deeper. Women are not seen as human beings. We're just seen as sex objects. I think it's an illness. I think you're right. While several people interviewed by the Times described the relationship between the two in those years as high-stakes sibling rivalry, others described the dynamic as painful to watch and rooted in a culture that favored men. He was very disrespectful toward Dolores, said Cynthia Bell, longtime union staff member, observing that Mr. Chavez and other male UFW leaders would frequently pick on Ms. Huerta in front of the entire staff. Don't say nothing, dilapidated bitch. What? One male union board member could be heard telling her during a meeting in April of 1978, a recording of which was reviewed by the Times. He then told her to shut up as Mr. Chavez berated her with even worse invective. Ms. Huerta said she often suppressed these memories as a survival mechanism. She could have made it through SERE training. Or SEER, as they say. I kind of blocked those things out of my mind, but I know at the time it was very painful, she said. She recalled an instance involving Father David Duran, a priest and bookkeeper who worked with the union. After witnessing a meeting in which Mr. Chavez relentlessly berated Ms. Huerta, Father Duran pulled her aside. He came up to me and he said, "You don't have to take that, you know? You don't have to take that from him," she remembered. But Ms. Huerta was not afraid to push back. After one especially brutal meeting where she was insulted, she said she left the UFW headquarters and returned to her home in Stockton, California for several weeks. When she eventually returned, she did so with a renewed sense of purpose. At the next meeting, when she took a spot at the back of the room, she said Mr. Chavez approached her and told her she didn't belong there. "I want to see you sitting up front. You need to be up front," she said and told her. Years later, in the spring of 1993, Ms. Huerta recalled sitting with Mr. Chavez in Yuma, Arizona, as the song "Saturday Night is the Loneliest Night of the Week" played on the radio. She said Mr. Chavez confessed to her during their conversation that he realized he had treated her and another female board member differently than their male colleagues. She met his admission head on. "Yes," she said, she told him, "it's called machismo. It's called male chauvinism." She saw it as his way of offering an apology. Several days later, Mr. Chavez died at the age of 66 while going over a legal case. Ms. Huerta said he had been found with his glasses still on and a brochure in his hand, appearing as if he had simply fallen into a peaceful sleep. That took him out before we would have to face his wrongdoings, she said. When asked if she had forgiven him, Ms. Huerta said the judgment was not hers to make. "Well, I'm not God," she said. "You know, I think it's up to God." It's really amazing and quite a story. And you won't believe, well, you probably will believe, the details as the New York Times reported them when the focus was Chavez himself. I've chosen to give some limited time to it from this other perspective. Just one, because it'll fit, and two, because, I don't know, at this point it's probably the more important of the testimonies with respect to his earlier activities. So, I don't know. What can I tell you? Our time together, I guess, quickly coming to an end here with Justice Putnam waiting to come up after our exit with the West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. I'm trying to scan to see whether there's anything else that we really need to get to. I don't know. We could spend Friday on a number of things. I guess there's some weird rebounds out there that we have to keep an eye on. Joe Kent with more discussion about what's going on. And apparently, this news also brought to my attention probably merits mention. Not only has he now resigned from the Counterterrorism Center, but and come in for criticism from Trump, who once praised him to the skies as, the most qualified and exactly who you want in charge of the Counterterrorism Center. Now he's a loser and an idiot, and we never really believed he was, good for the job anyway, even though I keep nominating all these people who are terrible losers. But to top it all off, the FBI apparently has launched an investigation of Joe Kent as allegedly being a leaker of some kind. Of course, every time somebody leaves the administration, Trump takes it as an opportunity to blame them for leaks that have plagued his administration. But Fox News is reporting it. Former counterterrorism chief Joe Kent under FBI investigation for alleged classified leaks. The probe predates Kent's departure, allegedly, from government. According to sources familiar with the matter, Jasmine Baer and David Spunt are the reporters for Fox News on this one, but, it is Fox News after all. Just wanted to put it on the record and see if any weird accusations arise from out of it and whether anybody comes to think of it as maybe having prompted his resignation, or was it just something cobbled together to make Trump and Trumpists feel better about having him resign, or that maybe can discredit his discrediting of what's going on in the Iran war. That's also a possibility. By the way, another former official in the Department of Defense, one that Hegseth blamed for leaking earlier in the administration. There's news about him too.
You have been listening to Kagro in the morning with David Waldman.
All right, we can discuss that a little bit more, but it's Dan Caldwell, who I think was one of the early guys purged from the department by Hegseth as an alleged leaker, when in fact it probably looked like he was the leaker. So he was the fall guy for this. With no problem, he's landed a new job at the ODNI. No problem for leaking suspects, right? We'll see you tomorrow.